Good afternoon. My name is Torchio Feaster, and I'd like to give you today's Tidbits with Torchio. During the last month, the last few weeks, many people have asked me questions about what we can do about racism in this country. A lot of our white brothers and sisters have done something great, which is they've stood up with us, they've walked with us, they've marched with us, they've protested with us, and they have said that enough is enough. That a black life does matter, and that they will support our right for freedom, justice, and equality. Now, I truly appreciate that. We need it. I love it. Working together, the spirit of unity, what we're doing to really make change in this community is great. Having allies with open ears and the willingness to fight with us, black and brown people, is a tremendous start to this movement. But there's much more that has to come from it. It cannot be just marching in the street. It cannot be just chanting no more racist police, ending systematic and institutional racism. We have to do better. We have to do more. And so now it's time for us to start thinking about solutions. So people ask me, as a lawyer, as I am, what they can do or what we can do to change the systematic and institutional racism in our court systems. And I tell them what many of my friends and colleagues have told our allies recently is that, we don't have all the answers. We did not create this structure of inequality, and we can't just tell you how to fix it, how to dismantle it. But what I can tell you about the court system is that the court system has been and continues to have bias and racial injustice in it every day, based on race, based on class, based on everything. I came across something today, and really over the last few weeks, that's really bothered me about the court system. Since courts are closed, physically closed, many judges have began doing court via the computer, via Zoom. And I love Zoom. I'm appreciative of Zoom. It's been very helpful for me to connect with my family and my friends over the Covid19 pandemic. But I'm very disappointed in what I'm seeing from our court system. I'm very disappointed in what I'm seeing from our judges. Not all, but many. Many judges are requiring defense attorneys and defendants to participate in court via Zoom. And while Zoom is a good tool, and we can use Zoom to do things that are quick, we can have a quick pre-trial, perhaps, or we can plan for, a future court date. We can do a waiver in a criminal matter, and we can do some things that are pretty quick and pretty simple and easy. But using Zoom also has an inherent bias to it, because Zoom works for people like me, people in their late 30s, early 40s, people who were raised with technology. But when you look with people in their 60s who may have an OWI, or in their 70s who may have an assault case, or you look at poor people who may not have a cell phone with a working video camera, who may not have a laptop computer that they can go on Zoom on. You look at the black and brown people who are historically disenfranchised and impoverished. Making someone use Zoom is difficult and, in my eyes, unfair. Now, I realize judges want to keep their dockets clean, and they want to move cases along as fast as possible. And that is a need for a judge's docket, fair. But that is greatly outweighed by the need and the desire for defendants to have quality, competent legal representation at every critical step. I have been on the court-appointed list here in Genesee County since I graduated law school and came back home. So about 14 years I've been on that list. And I'm thankful that every month I receive about 4 or 5 cases to represent people who don't have the money, don't have the resources to be able to go out and hire their own attorney. I represent people in our community who need good legal representation the most. And I do that for a fraction of what payment should be or would be if I had someone come into my office and hire me normally. And I do this because I wanted to make sure, when I came back to Flint, my goal was to make sure that I helped people who came from similar backgrounds like me, and to make sure that they had someone who really cared about them, someone who was in their corner to help them fight any charges that came against them. But today I am finding that that is becoming an impossibility for me, because I will not provide substandard legal representation and violate my ethical duty to provide zealous criminal defense to my clients because the judge wants to move their docket along or because the judge wants to do a case over Zoom. I have informed the court system here in Flint, and I have asked them to reassign all of my court-appointed cases because I am not going to continue to be a part of what I view as systemic and institutional injustice that happens to my clients. My clients think that the courts are closed, many of them. Many of them, I'm going to have a hard time getting in contact with them as they are trying to stay safe, as they are trying to shelter in place. And for me to be forced to try to tell them to figure out how to get on the Zoom, how to figure out how to get a camera, how to figure out how to get a computer so that they can come to a court hearing, it's just not right to me. And I can't stand for it. So I've asked the court to reassign all my court-appointed cases because I'm not going to breach my ethical duty and to set people up for failure. I cannot do a preliminary examination with my defendant via Zoom. I need to have my defendant next to me so that when he sees a witness on the stand and he has a question he wants me to ask that witness, he can tell me what that question is. I don't want to have him on the other end of a computer line, a telephone line, internet line. I don't think that's appropriate representation. And so I would tell people that that is how we change systemic and institutional racism. One way. Our judges have to realize that they cannot push standards that are unfair on people who may not have their means, who may not have come from the judge's background, and expect them to do things that are unrealistic. People who are poor, people who are impoverished, people who lacked the education and who don't know how to use technology in the way in which the court wants them to use, and we're going to hold that against them and give them substandard legal care because of that, I don't find that appropriate. So that's a way that we can change some systemic and institutional racism. And for my clients out there and anyone else who has any court matters going on, the courts are also beginning to, I'm told, set bench warrants for people who do not show up via Zoom. So you could be put in jail for not knowing how to, not being able to, or not getting on a Zoom call. I find that to be reprehensible. We can change institutional and systemic racism by putting people on the bench who understand these problems and who will fight to make sure that these things do not continue to happen. I believe I'm one of those people, and I am prepared to fight for the city of Flint and for everybody to make sure that they receive fair treatment in the court systems. I'm sorry this is happening, but I will do what I can do to continue to fight this. But I did not feel like I could continue to do my job appropriately without turning over those cases. And I felt that the people of Flint needed to know what was happening so that they can protect themselves in the light of what's happening in our court systems. That's my tidbit with Torchio for today. Thank you.